Ashley Umberger. Sorry that I'm bombarding your class, but I have to do this speech, and it's over EMS, so I thought this would be a good place to do it. So, EMS, Emergency Medical Services. Emergency medical services is defined as emergency services which treat illness and injury that require an urgent medical response, providing out-of-hospital treatment for transport to definitive care. So, EMTs, paramedics, ambulance drivers. I'm sure you've all heard all of those terms. And at some point in the history of EMS, then all of those terms have been correct. But today, I want to talk about the diversity in EMS and how far it's come in the last 50 years. So let's start by looking at it from its beginning. Early in EMS, it didn't look anything like it does today. EMS actually began in times of war. In the Civil War, then the Union actually started a rudimentary EMS system, and it was used to evacuate soldiers from the field. Modern day EMS is thought to have been started by Napoleon's chief physician who organized a system to treat and transport injured French soldiers. By the 1960s, a civilian version of EMS was established in the U.S. Oftentimes, hospitals or undertakers were actually the ones responsible for ambulance transport. Emergency vehicles were often staffed with untrained civilians, and their job was simply to drive fast and get them from point A to point B into the hospital before they died.
I didn't get that.
Many times, it wasn't even an ambulance that arrived. It was a hearse, and the driver would just drive and hope that they didn't die. But since they were in the hearse, then they would just go ahead and transport them to the morgue if they did die. So though EMS had a simple beginning, it's become much more professional and organized. Emergency Services has a well-organized education and levels of licensure now. Nationally, there are 4 levels of emergency medical technicians recognized, and in Tennessee and several other states, there are 5 levels. So the first and most basic level of nationally registered emergency medical technicians are EMRs, or Emergency Medical Responders. Emergency medical responders are trained in basic life-saving skills. They're trained in CPR and oxygen delivery, and they're often the first people to arrive on a scene of an accident. So they are able to get things started while they wait for the higher trained people to get there. The second level of licensure nationally recognized is EMT Basic. EMT Basics are slightly more trained than EMRs, and they can actually work full-time for emergency services. They're trained to assist in giving some medications, and they're also trained to help higher levels of care, such as their paramedic partners. EMT Advanced is the 3rd level of nationally recognized emergency personnel. EMT Advanced are able to initiate IVs and give fluids and some other life-saving medications, such as epinephrine for anaphylaxis or albuterol breathing treatments. Paramedics and critical care paramedics are the highest levels of emergency medical technicians. Paramedics are highly trained and are familiar with numerous life-saving medications and procedures. Paramedics are skilled in and can do things like sutures and can even do minor surgical procedures in the back of an ambulance, such as a cricothyrotomy or a chest tube. So now that we know the different levels of EMS, let's talk about the career opportunities for each level. EMT Basics can have a limited variety, but there are plenty of job opportunities out there. Basics can work part-time at most services and even full-time at some if you're pursuing training to become a higher level of care. EMT Basics are also often hired full-time at private services where they spend their days transporting non-critical patients to and from different facilities. EMT Advanced have a pretty broad range of job opportunities. You can work full-time at an ambulance service, or you can also go on and get your paramedic license from there. Paramedics and critical care paramedics have an incredibly wide range of jobs that they can do with their certification and licensure. As a paramedic, you can actually get your associate's degree in emergency medicine, and you can even teach or instruct at most colleges and universities, such as Ashley actually here in Houston. That's what they do. Paramedics can also work in areas that need specific skills, like transporting patients who are on ventilators and unable to breathe on their own, or on trucks like neonatal trucks with high-risk infants. Paramedics can work on helicopters and planes as flight medics, taking critical patients by air to the appropriate facilities. Honestly, no matter what level it is, even if you're a critical care paramedic and highly trained, some days seem like all you do is you're a taxi service for dialysis patients. So that's not really that much fun. But then the next day can be like this week, where there was a tornado and you get to treat and transport patients and carry them out of the rubble of a tornado. So, in conclusion, emergency medicine has come a long way from its humble beginnings to now, and it will continue to grow in skill and opportunity. So, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a little bit better understanding